Ha, ha.
Oh, you children will not let me rest. Grandma Margaret laughed so hard that tears rolled down her wrinkled cheeks. The living room was filled with joy, her children and grandchildren all around her, teasing her, telling funny stories, and making her laugh louder than she had in years. The sound of her laughter echoed through the house, so bright, so alive. But then in the middle of her laughter, her smile softened. Her eyes turned gentle, almost too calm. She looked at each of them, her sons, her daughters, and her grandchildren, as though she was memorizing their faces one last time. "My dear ones," she whispered softly, her voice trembling but clear, "I'm so glad we could laugh together today because this is the last time I will laugh with you." Silence fell instantly. Their smiles froze. No one dared to breathe. And before anyone could ask her what she meant, Grandma leaned back slowly in her chair, still smiling at them, and said, "It's time for me to say goodbye." The room erupted in shock. "No, Grandma," her youngest granddaughter cried. "What do you mean goodbye?" Her eldest son rushed to hold her hand, his heart pounding. But Grandma only smiled, peaceful, as if she already knew something no one else did. The air grew heavy, and every heart beat faster with fear. That was the moment they all realized this was no ordinary day. Weeks before that shocking moment, everything seemed normal in the little town of Ashwood, where Grandma Margaret lived in a small but cozy house at the end of Willow Lane. She was known in the town as the woman with the warm smile and the endless stories. Every child loved to visit her because she always had cookies, and every neighbor loved her because she never failed to greet them with kindness. But behind that smile, Grandma carried something no one noticed. She was getting weaker each day. Sometimes, her hands shook when she tried to pour tea. Other times, she would sit in her rocking chair, staring out of the window, sighing deeply when no one was looking. Her children were busy with their lives. Michael, her eldest, worked long hours in the city. Sarah, her only daughter, was a teacher who spent most of her time at school. David, the youngest, had moved far away and rarely visited. They loved her, but they often forgot that time was slipping away. One evening, Sarah came by after work and found Grandma coughing hard in the kitchen. "Mom, are you okay?" she asked, rushing to her side. Grandma quickly wiped her mouth with a napkin and forced a smile. "Don't worry, Sarah. I just choked on my tea. You know me, always clumsy." But Sarah wasn't convinced. She saw the tiredness in her mother's eyes, the way her shoulders sagged as though carrying a heavy weight. "Maybe you should see a doctor," Sarah said gently. "No need," Grandma replied firmly. "Old age is a doctor on its own. What I need is laughter, not medicine." Sarah frowned, but said nothing more. She didn't want to argue. A week later, Grandma insisted on gathering the whole family at her house for a special dinner. "I want everyone here," she told Sarah over the phone. "All of you. Don't say no." When Sarah asked why, Grandma only chuckled. "Because I said so. Isn't that enough?" And so the family agreed. They thought it was just one of her usual dinners, where they would eat too much food, laugh at old memories, and listen to her stories. But Grandma knew it would be the last time she would have them all together under one roof. The night of the dinner came. The house smelled of roasted chicken, fresh bread, and her famous apple pie. The grandchildren ran around the living room, their laughter bouncing off the walls. The adults sat in the dining room, talking and joking. When Grandma walked in, wearing her old blue dress with tiny white flowers, everyone clapped and cheered for her. She laughed and shook her head, saying, "Oh, stop making me feel like a queen." Dinner was beautiful. They told stories about their childhood, about how Michael once fell into a pond while trying to impress a girl, and how Sarah once cried for 3 hours when she lost her favorite doll. Everyone laughed, and Grandma laughed the loudest. But as the night went on, Grandma grew quieter. She looked at her family with eyes full of love, and in her heart, she knew this was the moment she had been waiting for. She wanted to leave them not with tears, but with laughter. And so, when Michael made a silly joke about Grandma secretly being able to dance better than him, she burst into a laugh so full, so real, that everyone joined in. For a moment, the house was alive with joy. Yet hidden beneath that laughter was the truth that Grandma had been keeping a secret from them all. A secret that would shake the entire family the moment they found out. And just as the laughter reached its highest point, Grandma gave her shocking words. "This is the last time I will laugh with you." The family froze in fear. The air went silent. And that was when everything changed. The silence in the room was so deep, you could almost hear the ticking of the old clock on the wall. Grandma Margaret's words hung heavy in the air. "This is the last time I will laugh with you." Her children stared at her, their faces pale, their hearts racing. Her grandchildren clung to each other, not understanding fully what she meant, but knowing it was something serious. "Mom, don't say things like that," Michael whispered, gripping her hand tightly. His voice cracked, a mixture of fear and anger. "You're going to live for many more years. Stop scaring us." But Grandma only smiled softly. "Michael, my dear boy, I've lived a long life, longer than I expected. And tonight, sitting here with all of you, my heart is full. I couldn't ask for anything more." "Grandma, please," little Emma cried, rushing to hug her grandmother's lap. "Don't say goodbye. Stay with us forever." Grandma stroked Emma's hair gently, tears forming in her own eyes. "Forever is a long time, my sweet one. And no one stays forever. But love stays. Always." The room trembled with emotions. Sarah stood up suddenly, her chair screeching against the floor. "Mom, you're hiding something from us, aren't you? Tell me the truth right now." Grandma looked down at her lap. Her hands trembled slightly, but her face was calm. "I didn't want to burden you all. I wanted to protect you from worry. But maybe it's time you knew." The children and grandchildren leaned closer, their hearts pounding, waiting for her to continue. "I've been sick," Grandma finally confessed. "For a while now. The doctor says it's my heart. It's weak, too weak. And he told me there isn't much time left." Gasps filled the room. Michael dropped his head into his hands. Sarah covered her mouth with shaking fingers. David, who had been sitting silently in the corner, clenched his fists, his eyes watering.
"No," Sarah whispered. "No, no, no."
"You should have told us earlier. We could have helped you, we could have." "What would you have done, my child?" Grandma asked gently. "Carry the pain for me? Suffer in my place?"
"No."
Some burdens belong only to the one who carries them. The grandchildren began to cry, their young hearts breaking as the truth sank in. Grandma tried her best to comfort them, even though she herself was breaking inside. "I don't want your last memory of me to be hospitals, machines, and sadness," she said firmly. "I want your last memory of me to be this night. The laughter, the love, the togetherness." For a long moment no one moved. The family sat there, frozen between grief and disbelief, not knowing how to react. Then, suddenly, Michael stood up, his face red with tears and frustration.
"No.
I won't accept this. We can still fight. We can find another doctor, another treatment. Mom, you're not going anywhere." His voice was so loud that it made the youngest children flinch. The tension in the room rose like a storm. Sarah tried to calm him, but Michael shook his head, pacing back and forth like a trapped lion. Grandma raised her hand slowly, and her voice was calm but firm. "Michael, my time has come. You cannot fight the wind. You cannot stop the river. Let me go in peace." Those words cut through the air like a knife. Michael froze, his chest heaving, his eyes red. He wanted to argue, but deep inside, he knew she was right. The room grew heavy with sadness. But Grandma, ever the strong one, tried to bring warmth back into the moment. She told them stories of her childhood, of the silly mistakes she made as a young girl, and of the times she too cried because she thought her own mother would never leave her side. Her voice, though weak, still carried wisdom. "Life is like a candle," she said softly. "It shines bright for a time, and then the flame grows smaller. But if that candle lights another before it fades, the light goes on. That is what I've done with you all. I have given you my light, and you must carry it forward." Her words sank deep into their hearts. Some cried quietly. Others held her hands tightly, refusing to let go. But just as the family tried to find strength in her words, something sudden and terrifying happened. Grandma clutched her chest, gasping for breath. Her face went pale. "Mom!" Sarah screamed, rushing to her side. "Michael, call an ambulance now." The grandchildren began to wail in fear, while David lifted Grandma's frail body into his arms. Her breaths were shallow, her eyes half closed. And in that terrifying moment, it felt as if time itself had stopped. Would she survive the night? Or had her goodbye already begun?
Hold on, Mom.
Please, hold on. Sarah's voice cracked as she knelt beside her mother. Her hands shook as she tried to steady Grandma's frail body. The children huddled together, their cries echoing through the room like a chorus of fear. Michael fumbled with his phone, his trembling fingers struggling to dial. "Hello? Yes, please, send an ambulance right now. It's my mother. She can't breathe. Willow Lane, number 18, please hurry." His words tumbled out in panic. David carried Grandma to the couch, carefully laying her down. Her eyes fluttered, her breath shallow, every rise of her chest slower than the last. She tried to speak, but only a whisper came out. "Don't be afraid. Don't talk, Mom. Just stay with us," David said, his voice breaking. He gripped her hand tightly, as though holding on could stop time itself. Minutes felt like hours until the faint sound of sirens pierced the silence. The children looked toward the window, tears streaming down their cheeks, hoping, praying that help would come in time. The paramedics rushed in, carrying equipment. One of them quickly checked her pulse and blood pressure, while the other prepared oxygen. "She's critical," one said sharply. "We need to move her now." The family watched in horror as Grandma was lifted onto the stretcher. Emma tried to run to her, but Sarah held her back, whispering, "It's okay, sweetheart. Grandma's going to be okay. They'll take care of her." But Sarah's voice trembled. She wasn't sure if she was telling the truth or just trying to protect her little girl's heart. The ambulance doors slammed shut, and the siren wailed into the night. Michael and David jumped into their car, following closely behind. Sarah stayed with the children, trying to comfort them, though her own tears would not stop falling. At the hospital, the harsh fluorescent lights painted everything in cold white. The smell of disinfectant filled the air. Michael paced the floor endlessly, his hands gripping his hair. David sat still, staring blankly at the wall, his thoughts heavy with guilt. Finally, a doctor approached them. His expression was serious, his voice low. "She's stable for now, but her heart is very weak. The truth is, she doesn't have much time. We'll do everything we can, but you should prepare yourselves." Michael shook his head violently. "No, you don't understand. She can't leave us. She's our mother. She's our strength. She. His voice broke, and he collapsed into a chair, his shoulders shaking with sobs. David placed a hand on his brother's shoulder, but his own eyes glistened with tears. "We have to be strong for her. That's what she would want." Inside the hospital room, Grandma lay connected to wires and tubes, her body looking smaller than ever. Yet, when she saw her sons enter, she managed a faint smile. "There you are," she whispered. "I knew you wouldn't leave me." Michael rushed to her bedside, grabbing her hand. "Mom, don't leave us. Please. I can't imagine this world without you." Grandma lifted her weak hand to his face. "My boy, you're stronger than you think. You just don't know it yet." David leaned closer, his voice low. "Mom, why didn't you tell us sooner?
We could have been here for you.
We could have done something." A tear slid down her cheek. "Because I wanted you to live your lives, not watch mine fade. I wanted your memories of me to be filled with joy, not hospitals and fear." Her words cut deep into their hearts. Michael and David both cried openly now, their mother's wisdom too heavy to bear. Suddenly, the door burst open. Sarah had arrived with the children. Emma ran to her grandmother's side, her small hands clutching Margaret's arm. "Grandma, please don't go. Who will bake cookies with me? Who will tell me bedtime stories?" Grandma's eyes filled with tears as she kissed Emma's forehead. You will bake cookies with your mommy, and you will tell stories to your little brother one day. My light is in you now. The children gathered around her bed, their innocent faces soaked in tears, their hearts too young to understand why love had to hurt so much. And in that heartbreaking moment, Grandma did something none of them expected. She began to sing, softly, weakly, but with a voice that still carried love. It was the lullaby she used to sing to her children when they were young. The same lullaby Sarah sang to Emma at night. The family fell silent, listening, their tears falling harder with every note. Her voice trembled, her breath fading, but she finished the song with a small smile.
See?
We can still laugh, we can still sing, even when goodbye is near. The room filled with sobs. No one could hold back anymore. And then the heart monitor beeped irregularly. The doctors rushed in, shouting instructions, pushing the family aside. Her heart's failing. Prepare the defibrillator. Michael shouted. Save her. Please save her. The children screamed for their grandmother, their tiny voices filled with terror. And just as the doctor prepared to shock her heart, the monitor gave one long, piercing sound. A flatline. The room froze in horror. Had Grandma just taken her last breath right before their eyes? The sound of the flatline pierced the room like a knife through their hearts. A long, steady tone filled the air, and for a moment, it felt as if the whole world had stopped breathing. No! Michael screamed, lunging forward, but David and a nurse held him back. His eyes were wild, his face drenched in tears. Save her. Don't let her die. Clear, shouted the doctor, pressing the defibrillator paddles to Grandma's chest. Her frail body jolted violently as electricity surged through her. The children screamed and buried their faces into Sarah's arms. The monitor beeped again, but only once. Then silence. Again, the doctor ordered. Another shock. Grandma's body lifted and dropped, her eyes still closed, her lips pale. The monitor flickered. A slow, faint beep returned. Then another. And another. She's back, the nurse whispered. The room erupted with gasps of relief. Michael fell to his knees, crying uncontrollably. Sarah clutched Emma tightly, whispering, Thank you, God.
Thank you.
But the doctor's expression remained grim. He looked at the family and said softly, She's stable for now. But understand this. Her heart is too weak. This was a warning. It could happen again, at any moment. Those words sank into their souls like heavy stones. There was no victory here, only a temporary gift of borrowed time. The family gathered around Grandma's bed once more. Her eyelids fluttered, and she slowly opened her eyes. You're still here, she whispered, her voice fragile. Of course we're here, David said, squeezing her hand. We're not going anywhere. Grandma smiled weakly. Then let me say what I need to say. The room fell silent. Even the children quieted, sensing the importance of the moment. My dear ones, she began slowly, each word costing her strength, I know you don't want me to go. And believe me, I don't want to leave you either. But life doesn't ask us what we want. It takes us when it is time. That is why every moment we have together is precious. Her words made tears flow harder from every eye. Michael gripped her hand as though it were the only thing keeping him alive. Sarah sobbed silently, her face pressed into Emma's hair. David stood tall, but tears streamed down his cheeks freely. Grandma continued, her voice faint but steady. I need you to promise me something. Promise me that when I'm gone, you won't let grief tear you apart. Promise me you'll stay together. Family must always be together. Michael nodded fiercely, his tears dripping onto her blanket. I promise, Mom. I swear. Sarah kissed her mother's forehead. I promise to. I'll keep your light alive in the children. David whispered, We'll honor you every day, Mom. Grandma's lips curled into a faint smile, her eyes glistening. That is all I ask. The family stayed with her through the night, refusing to leave her side. They told stories, held her hands, and even laughed a little through their tears. For those hours, the hospital room wasn't a place of sickness. It was filled with love. But as dawn began to break, Grandma's strength faded again. Her breaths grew shallow, her eyes heavy. She looked at each of them one last time, as though memorizing their faces forever. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said the words that would stay in their hearts forever. "I love you all. And when you laugh together, remember me. Because tonight, I laughed with you one last time." The heart monitor began to slow. Beep, beep, beep. The family clung to her, crying, begging her to hold on. But Grandma's eyes gently closed, her lips still curved into the faintest smile. The monitor gave one last, piercing sound. The room fell into unbearable silence. She was gone. The family broke. The children wailed. Michael cried out so loudly the nurses had to hold him. Sarah clutched her mother's lifeless hand, whispering, "Please come back, please." David stood frozen, his face drenched with silent tears, unable to move. The nurse placed a hand on Michael's shoulder. She passed peacefully. "Surrounded by love. That's more than most people ever have." But those words felt like salt on an open wound. For the first time in their lives, they were facing a world without Grandma Margaret. And none of them knew how they would survive it. The day of Grandma Margaret's funeral came far too quickly. The air was heavy, the sky gray, as though the heavens themselves were mourning. The little white church on Willow Lane was filled with people, family, friends, neighbors, all dressed in black, their faces wet with tears. Inside the church, the wooden coffin lay at the front, surrounded by white lilies, Grandma's favorite flowers. A framed photo of her smiling face rested beside it, her eyes full of the warmth they all knew so well. Sarah held Emma and little Tom's hands tightly as they entered. Michael walked ahead, his eyes red and swollen, his steps unsteady. David followed slowly, his jaw clenched, his grief locked deep inside. The children didn't fully understand, but they knew one thing. Grandma was gone, and the house would never feel the same again. As the service began, the pastor spoke of Grandma Margaret's kindness, her wisdom, her laughter that had once filled every corner of her home. "She gave her life to love her family," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "And even in her final breath, she left them with the greatest gift, the memory of her love." The family sat in silence, their hearts aching as every word sank deeper. When it was time to share memories, Sarah stood first. Her voice shook as she faced the crowd. "My mother was the strongest woman I've ever known. She sacrificed everything for us, her dreams, her time, her health, just so we could live better lives. And yet, she never complained. She only smiled. I don't know how to live without her." Her words brought many to tears. Michael stood next, but instead of speaking of her sacrifices, his grief turned to anger. "She should still be here," he said bitterly, his fists clenched. "She hid her sickness from us. She didn't give us the chance to help her, to save her. She carried it all alone. And now," his voice cracked, "now she's gone, and it feels like she left us unprepared." The room grew tense. Sarah lowered her head, tears streaming. David stood up quickly, putting a hand on Michael's shoulder. "She didn't hide it because she didn't trust us, Michael. She hid it because she loved us. She didn't want us to suffer with her. Can't you see? Even in dying, she was protecting us." Michael shook his head, his chest heaving. "But I should have been there sooner. I should have seen the signs. I should have." His words trailed off into sobs. The congregation watched quietly, some crying, some nodding in understanding. David took a deep breath and faced everyone. "What my mother wanted most was for us to stay together. She made us promise. And we can't let grief destroy that. We have to honor her by living the way she taught us, with love." The weight of his words settled over the family like a blanket. Slowly, Michael's anger softened. He wiped his tears and sat down, holding Sarah's hand for the first time in years. After the service, the coffin was carried out to the graveyard. The children followed, clinging to their parents, their tiny hearts heavy with confusion and sorrow. The coffin was lowered into the earth. The sound of the ropes sliding made the moment feel unbearably final. "Goodbye, Mom," Michael whispered, dropping a white rose into the grave. "Goodbye, Mama," Sarah sobbed, doing the same. David didn't speak. He only pressed his hand to the coffin one last time before stepping back, his tears falling silently onto the fresh soil. The grandchildren, too young to fully grasp the depth of death, dropped small flowers they had picked, whispering, "We love you, Grandma." As the earth covered the coffin, Emma tugged on Sarah's sleeve. "Mommy, will Grandma ever laugh with us again?" Sarah knelt down, hugging her tightly, her voice trembling.
No, sweetheart.
"She won't laugh with us here anymore. But every time we laugh together, her spirit will be with us. She'll always be in our hearts." Emma sniffled, her little face wet with tears. "Then we'll laugh a lot. So Grandma will always be with us." Sarah's heart broke at her daughter's innocence, but her words carried truth. That night, the family gathered at Grandma's now empty house. The silence inside was deafening. Her rocking chair sat by the window, empty. Her teapot still sat on the counter, untouched. Her scent still lingered faintly in the air. The children ran through the rooms, searching, calling, "Grandma," as though she might still appear. Sarah sank into the rocking chair, holding one of Grandma's scarves against her chest. Michael sat heavily at the table, staring at nothing. David stood by the window, looking out at the garden where Grandma once spent her mornings. "I don't know how to move on," Michael said quietly. "Everything feels wrong without her." Sarah wiped her tears and whispered, "We move on by remembering her, by living the way she taught us, by keeping her light alive." David turned from the window, his eyes red. "She gave us her last laugh. She wanted us to carry that joy, not this pain. We owe it to her." The family sat together in silence, their grief still raw, but their bond stronger than before. Outside, the wind rustled through the trees, as if carrying Grandma's laughter through the night. And though her chair was empty, her presence lingered, an invisible thread tying their hearts together. But as they sat in that house, holding on to memories, none of them realized that Grandma had left behind something else. Something hidden. Something that, once discovered, would change the family forever. The next morning, sunlight crept through the dusty curtains of Grandma's old house. The family had spent the night there, too tired and too broken to return to their own homes. The house felt different now, quieter, heavier, as if it too knew its heart had stopped beating. Michael sat at the kitchen table, his face buried in his hands. Sarah prepared tea absent-mindedly, though no one was drinking. David wandered the living room, his eyes falling on every object Grandma had left behind: her knitting basket, her worn Bible, the photo frames filled with smiling faces. The children, restless, ran up the stairs to Grandma's bedroom. Emma stopped in front of the dresser and whispered, "It still smells like her." She opened the top drawer carefully, expecting to find only scarves and handkerchiefs. But instead, she spotted something unusual. "Mommy," Emma shouted, her small voice echoing through the house. "Come here. I found something." The adults rushed upstairs, their hearts pounding. Emma pointed at a small wooden box tucked neatly under Grandma's scarves. David pulled it out slowly and placed it on the bed. It was old, carved with delicate patterns of flowers and vines, the wood polished smooth from years of use. On top, in Grandma's handwriting, were the words, "For my family, when I am gone." Everyone froze. Michael's breath caught in his throat. "She left us something." With trembling hands, Sarah opened the box. Inside were neatly folded letters, each envelope addressed to a family member by name. There was one for Michael, one for Sarah, one for David, and several smaller ones with the grandchildren's names carefully written in her familiar handwriting. Tears welled in their eyes as they realized Grandma had prepared this long before her passing. Sarah pulled out her envelope first. With shaking hands, she opened it and began to read aloud. "My dear Sarah, you were always the gentle one. You cared for me more than I ever deserved. But you must learn to care for yourself too. Don't carry the weight of everyone's burdens on your shoulders. Live, laugh, and love. That is how you honor me." Sarah broke down, clutching the letter to her chest. David opened his next. His mother's words pierced his heart. "My son David, you were the quiet one. You hid your feelings, thinking silence was strength. But strength is not silence. It is love shared. Speak your heart. Don't let fear keep you apart from those who love you." His tears spilled freely as he folded the letter carefully, holding it like a treasure. Then Michael opened his. His mother's words cut through his guilt. "My dear Michael, my firstborn, you always tried to protect everyone, to carry every burden. But sometimes love means letting go. Don't blame yourself for what you could not change. My life was full and happy because of you. Release the guilt. That is my final wish for you." Michael broke down completely, sobbing into his hands. Sarah and David wrapped their arms around him, their grief binding them together. Then came the children's letters. Each one was short, but filled with love. To Emma, bake cookies, sing songs, and never stop laughing. To Tom, be brave, even when you are afraid, for bravery is in your blood. To the older grandchildren, follow your dreams, but always remember where home is. The children clutched the letters like treasures, their tears mixing with innocent smiles. "Grandma wrote to me," Emma whispered softly. "She didn't forget me." At the bottom of the box was one last envelope. Unlike the others, it was addressed not to an individual, but to all of them. The words on it read, "My final wish." David picked it up and carefully opened it. Inside was a letter, written in Grandma's steady hand. "My dear family, if you are reading this, then I am gone. Do not cry too long. Instead, live fully, love deeply, and stay together. My final wish is simple. Keep our home alive. Don't let it grow silent and empty. Fill it with laughter, stories, and love. This house is not just bricks and wood, it is our heart. Let it beat through you." Her words struck them like a bolt of lightning. The house, the very place they were standing in, was her final gift. Michael whispered, "She doesn't want us to sell it, she wants us to keep it alive." Sarah nodded, her tears falling again. This was her soul, her light. She wants us to carry it forward. But even as they clung to her words, an argument began to stir. Michael wanted to preserve the house exactly as it was, untouched, like a shrine. Sarah thought they should continue to live in it, filling it with family as Grandma wished. David, practical as always, believed it would be too costly to maintain and suggested finding another way to honor her. The grief that had brought them together now threatened to tear them apart. Voices rose, tears turned into anger, and the unity Grandma begged for began to crack. The children watched from the stairs, confused and frightened, as their parents' voices echoed through the house. And then, in the middle of the argument, Emma stood up. Her small voice cut through the storm like thunder. "Stop fighting. Grandma said we should laugh together and remember her. She wouldn't want this." The room went silent. Her words hit them harder than any argument could. They looked at one another, realizing the truth. But before peace could settle, Michael stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. The family was left in stunned silence, the tension heavy. Even after death, Grandma's wish for unity was in danger of being broken. The slam of the door echoed through the quiet house like thunder. Michael's footsteps pounded against the wooden porch as he stormed into the yard, his face burning with grief and rage. The rest of the family sat in stunned silence, the tension so heavy it felt like the walls of the house were pressing in on them. Sarah wiped her tears and whispered, "He's breaking. He doesn't know how to handle this." David shook his head, his jaw tight. "He's not the only one hurting, Sarah. We all are. But fighting won't bring Mom back." Inside, the children sat huddled together, their small faces pale and anxious. Emma clutched her letter from Grandma tightly to her chest. "Grandma wouldn't want us to be like this," she whispered softly, but no one seemed to hear her. Outside, Michael walked down the path toward the garden. Grandma's garden. The flowers she had planted with her own hands still bloomed there, even though they hadn't been watered in days. He sank to his knees in the dirt, clutching handfuls of soil, as if he could pull her back from the earth. "Why didn't you tell me?" he sobbed, his voice raw. "Why did you carry it all alone? I could have helped you, Mom. I could have saved you." His cries carried through the open window, and Sarah's heart shattered at the sound. She wanted to go to him, to hold her brother, like she had when they were children. But before she could move, David's voice cut through the silence. "Maybe he needs space," David muttered. But Sarah shook her head.
No. What he needs is family.
That's what Mom wanted. She stood and walked toward the door, but before she could open it, Michael burst back inside, his face streaked with tears and dirt. His voice trembled with fury. "You don't get it," he snapped. "None of you do. You think these letters make everything okay? They don't. They just remind me of how much we failed her. We weren't here. We let her die alone." "Michael." Sarah tried to speak, but he cut her off. "Don't," he shouted, his voice breaking. "Don't pretend you're not guilty too. We were too busy. Too distracted. We didn't see how sick she was. We left her to fight by herself." The children flinched at his shouting, tears spilling down their cheeks. David stepped forward, his face stern. "Enough, Michael. Mom wouldn't want us drowning in guilt. She gave us her last laugh, her last words, her last love. And you're spitting on it by blaming everyone." Michael's fists clenched, his body trembling. For a moment, it looked as though he might explode with anger. But then his shoulders dropped, and he collapsed onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. His voice came out as a whisper. "I don't know how to live without her." Sarah sat beside him, wrapping her arms around his shaking shoulders. "None of us do. But we'll learn. Together." The room grew quiet again, the storm of anger replaced by the weight of sorrow. But just as peace began to return, David noticed something strange. On the mantel above the fireplace, tucked behind a photo frame of Grandma holding baby Emma, was a small, sealed envelope. He pulled it down and read the front aloud. "To my children, when you are ready." The air in the room shifted instantly. Michael lifted his head, his tears still fresh. "Another letter?" David nodded slowly. "She left more for us." The siblings gathered around as he opened the envelope. Inside was a letter written in Grandma's familiar handwriting, her words flowing like a voice from beyond the grave. "My dear children, if you have found this letter, it means my first ones were not enough to ease your hearts. I know you will struggle. I know grief will try to divide you. But listen carefully. Do not let my death become the reason you fall apart. Let it be the reason you stay strong together. If you fight, you break me. If you love, you keep me alive." Tears streamed down their faces as David continued. "I have left something for you. Not money, not gold, but something far greater. Look beneath the floorboard in my bedroom closet. There you will find what I could not tell you while I lived. It is my final gift to you." The siblings froze, their hearts pounding. "What does she mean?" Sarah whispered. Michael wiped his tears and stood, determination burning in his eyes for the first time since her passing. "I don't know, but we're going to find out." The family rushed upstairs, the children trailing close behind, their little eyes wide with anticipation. In Grandma's bedroom, David knelt on the closet floor and pulled at the wooden boards. After a few moments of struggle, one came loose with a sharp creak. Beneath it was a small metal box, dusty and heavy with age. He lifted it out carefully, and the room filled with silence as every eye locked onto it. Sarah swallowed hard. This is it. This is what she wanted us to have. Michael placed the box on the bed and slowly opened the lid. Inside were old photographs, letters, and a worn leather journal. But at the very bottom, hidden beneath the papers, was something none of them expected. A sealed envelope marked with 3 words that sent chills down their spines. The truth untold. The room was silent, so silent that even the children dared not breathe. The sealed envelope sat on the bed between them, its 3 words, the truth untold, burning into their minds. Michael's hands trembled as he reached for it, but Sarah stopped him. "Wait," she whispered. "Whatever's inside, it could change everything." David's voice was steady, though his eyes betrayed fear. "Mom wanted us to find it. She wanted us to know. We owe it to her." Slowly, Michael tore the seal. The flap opened with a soft rip, and inside was a letter written in Grandma's elegant handwriting. His voice cracked as he began to read aloud. "My dear children, if you are reading this, then you have found the secret I carried in silence. It is not because I did not trust you, but because I did not want to burden you with my past. But I cannot leave this world without telling you who I truly was." The siblings leaned closer, their hearts pounding. "Many years ago, before you were born, I was not the woman you knew me to be. I was young, reckless, and I made choices that nearly destroyed me. I fell in love with a man who is not your father. From that love, I had a child, a daughter. But in my fear and shame, I gave her away. She grew up not knowing me, and I lived my life carrying that wound in silence. Your father knew, and he forgave me, but I never forgave myself. I prayed every day that one day she would forgive me too." Sarah gasped, her hand covering her mouth. A sister? We have a sister?" Michael's face went pale. "Why didn't she tell us?" David continued reading. "Her name is Anna. She is your blood, your sister, though you may not know her yet. I tried to reach her, but I grew weak, and time slipped away from me. If you love me, find her. Bring her into this family. Do not let her live feeling unwanted, as I once feared she did. That is my final wish." The letter slipped from Michael's hands and fell onto the bed. The children looked up at their parents, wide-eyed. Emma whispered, "Grandma had another child?" "Yes," Sarah said softly, her voice trembling. "And she wants us to find her." Michael paced the room, his emotions boiling. All this time, all these years, and she never said a word. We could have known our sister. "Michael," David said firmly, "don't turn this into anger again. This isn't about blame. It's about honoring her last wish." Sarah picked up the letter again, tears streaming down her cheeks. She carried this pain all her life. And even at the end, she still thought of love. She didn't want secrets to divide us. She wanted truth to heal us. The family sat together, holding the journal, the letters, and the photographs Grandma had left behind. The children huddled close, sensing the weight of the moment. Finally, Sarah spoke, her voice steady through the tears. "We'll find her. We'll find Anna." Grandma gave us laughter one last time before she said goodbye, but this is the gift she left for us to carry on. A chance to make things right. Michael sank back onto the bed, his anger melting into grief and something else. Hope. "Then we do it. For her." David nodded. "For Mom." The family joined hands, a circle bound not by blood alone but by the love of a woman who had given them everything, even in her silence. They knew the road ahead would not be easy, but they also knew they would walk it together. Downstairs, the echo of Grandma's laughter seemed to linger in the walls, a reminder that though she had said goodbye, her spirit lived on in every lesson, every letter, and every choice they would make. That night, as the children drifted to sleep clutching Grandma's letters, Sarah whispered to herself, "She laughed with us one last time, and in that laughter, she left us the strength to carry on." And though their hearts ached, they understood the life lesson she had given them. Family is not just who we are born to, it is who we choose to love, forgive, and hold on to, even through pain. Grandma's story did not end with goodbye. It lived on in the truth she left behind, and in the promise her children made to heal what she could not. Thought Balloon *, Grandma's story teaches us something we must never forget. Life is short, but love is forever. She gave her family laughter one last time, but behind her smile was a truth she carried in silence. Even in her goodbye, she left them a gift, not of wealth, not of possessions, but of truth, forgiveness, and unity. Family is not perfect. We argue, we hurt each other, and sometimes we hide secrets out of fear. But love has the power to heal all wounds. Never wait until it is too late to say, I love you, to forgive, or to bring someone back into your heart. Because in the end, it will not be the things we own that matter. It will be the moments of laughter, the acts of forgiveness, and the love we gave. That is the true legacy we leave behind. Asterisk broken heart old woman sparkles.